Elena Rodriguez walked through the crystal corridors of Nexus Prime Station with calm confidence. She had done this walk many times before. The alien station floated in neutral space between 3 different star systems. It was the perfect place for peace talks. Elena wore her best diplomatic uniform. The dark blue fabric carried the Earth symbol on her shoulder. She had spent 15 years of her life building trust between humans and aliens. Every species in the galaxy knew her name. They respected her patience and her ability to find solutions when others saw only problems. The Zephyrian Alliance had finally agreed to meet with human representatives. This was the moment Elena had worked toward for years. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and shared technology could bring peace to this part of the galaxy. Elena believed deeply that all thinking beings could learn to live together. The meeting hall was enormous. Tall windows showed the stars beyond. Representatives from 12 different alien species sat around a curved table. Their forms varied wildly. Some looked like tall insects. Others resembled living rocks. A few had tentacles instead of arms. Elena had studied each species for months. Ambassador Kethron of the Zephyrians stood as Elena entered. His 4 arms moved in a gesture of respect. His blue skin shimmered under the artificial lights. Ambassador Rodriguez, we welcome you to these talks. Your reputation for fairness travels far. Elena smiled and bowed slightly. Thank you, Ambassador Kethron. I hope today we can build something lasting between our peoples. She took her seat at the human section of the table. The talks began immediately. For 3 hours they discussed trade routes and mining rights. Elena listened carefully to each concern. She offered compromises that satisfied multiple parties. The alien representatives seemed pleased with the progress. Several agreements took shape, then everything changed. A Krillian delegate named Vextar had been quiet during most discussions. The Krillians looked like upright lizards with sharp teeth. They had not joined the Zephyrian Alliance. Vextar claimed he was there only as an observer. Elena had noticed his cold stare during the talks. I have a question for the human, Vextar said suddenly. His voice carried through the translation device like grinding metal. Why should superior species waste time with primitives who barely left their home planet? Elena kept her voice calm. I believe all intelligent species have something valuable to offer. Humans may be new to space, but we bring fresh perspectives and strong dedication to peace. Vexatar stood up slowly. His clawed hands gripped the edge of the table. Fresh perspectives? You mean weakness? Humans talk of peace because you lack the strength for anything else. You are prey animals pretending to be predators. The other delegates shifted uncomfortably. Ambassador Kethron tried to restore order. This is not the time for such discussions. We are here to build cooperation. But Vextar was not finished. The galaxy has watched humans for decades. You send diplomats instead of warriors. You offer trade instead of taking what you want. You negotiate instead of conquering. This proves you are inferior. Elena felt the familiar weight of representing her entire species. She had faced such accusations before. Humans choose diplomacy because we believe it creates better outcomes for everyone involved. Strength is not always about violence. Vextar laughed. The sound was harsh and cruel. You speak of choice, but choice requires options. Humans have no military might. You have no weapons that frighten your enemies. You negotiate because you must, not because you choose to. The Krillian delegate reached into his ceremonial robes. Elena thought he was retrieving some kind of document. Instead, his clawed hand emerged holding a small device. The energy weapon was barely larger than his palm. This is what happens to inferior species who pretend to be equals, Vextar snarled. The weapon fired with a bright flash. Elena felt the energy bolt strike her chest. Pain exploded through her body as she fell backward from her chair. The other delegates screamed and jumped away from the table. Alarms began ringing throughout the station. Elena lay on the cold floor looking up at the ceiling. She could hear the chaos around her but felt strangely peaceful. Her life's work had been about bringing species together. Now a member of one species had killed her in front of representatives from 12 others. Ambassador Kethron knelt beside her. His 4 hands pressed against her wounds, but Elena could feel her strength leaving. "Why?" she whispered. "We were so close to agreement." Vexitar stood over her broken body. "This message will travel to every human world. Your species will learn its proper place in the galaxy. You will serve your betters or face extinction." Security. Forces arrived too late. Vexitar had already activated some kind of transport device. He disappeared in a flash of light, leaving only Elena dying on the floor. The assassination had been planned carefully. Every moment was recorded by the station's cameras. The footage would soon reach every corner of known space. Elena Rodriguez died thinking about the agreements they had almost signed. Trade routes that would have connected distant worlds. Cultural exchanges that would have built understanding. Scientific cooperation that could have advanced all species. Her final breath carried the hope that someone else would continue her work. The news reached Earth 6 hours later. President Connor Walsh was in the middle of a cabinet meeting when his aide rushed in with the report. The room fell silent as they watched the footage. Elena's assassination played out in terrible detail. Defense Secretary Lisa Morgan watched the president's face change. Connor Walsh had known Elena personally. He had appointed her as humanity's chief diplomat because of her unwavering belief in peaceful solutions. Now she was dead, killed while trying to build the very peace she had dedicated her life to achieving. "Sir," Lisa said quietly, "we need to consider our response options." President Walsh stared at the screen showing Elena's body. His hands clenched slowly into fists. When he spoke, his voice carried a coldness that made everyone in the room step back. "Recall every human diplomat from every alien world. Cancel all trade agreements. Close our borders to all alien traffic. And get me Admiral Harrison immediately." The aide looked confused. "Sir, what should I tell the press about our response?" President Walsh turned away from the screen. His eyes held a hardness that few had ever seen. "Tell them that humanity is finished negotiating. Elena Rodriguez spent 15 years proving that humans prefer peace. Her death will teach the galaxy what happens when that preference is ignored." Within hours, human diplomatic missions across the galaxy began shutting down. Trade ships changed course for home. Every peaceful gesture humanity had extended was withdrawn. The galaxy would soon learn that Elena Rodriguez had not been weak. She had been humanity's restraint. Admiral Jake Harrison stood before the largest gathering of human military leaders in history. The war room deep beneath Earth's capital stretched across an entire city block. Holographic displays showed star maps, fleet positions, and weapon inventories. Every admiral, every general, every intelligence chief had been called home. Jake looked at the faces around him. These were people who had spent their careers maintaining peace. They designed defensive systems and trained soldiers. For protection, not conquest. But Elena Rodriguez's death had changed everything. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jake began, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We are no longer the human race that seeks peaceful solutions. We are now the human race that has been pushed beyond our limits. The Krillian hegemony believes we are weak. They will learn otherwise." Captain Amy Foster raised her hand. She commanded the heavy cruiser Retribution, one of humanity's most powerful warships. "Admiral, our current fleet doctrine focuses on defense and escort duties. How quickly can we shift to offensive operations?" Jake smiled grimly. "Faster than any alien species expects. Captain Foster, your ship and 49 others will form the first attack wave. You'll receive new weapon systems within 72 hours. Amy nodded. She had known this day might come. Every human military officer understood that their peaceful missions were possible only because of their ability to wage war if necessary. The galaxy was about to see what human warfare really looked like. Dr. Nathan Webb stepped forward from the research section. He had spent 20 years developing weapons that were never meant to be used. His laboratories created technology so advanced that humanity kept them secret from even their closest allies. "Admiral Harrison," Nathan said, "we have defensive systems that no alien species has ever encountered. stealth technology that makes our ships invisible to their sensors, weapons that can destroy entire fleets in minutes, energy shields that can deflect anything they currently possess. The room buzzed with quiet conversation. Many officers had heard rumors about secret weapons projects. Few knew the true extent of human military capability. They had built this strength not for conquest, but to ensure that any war would end quickly. Colonel Sarah Martinez stood up. She had commanded ground forces during the last conflicts on Earth before humanity achieved planetary unity. Her experience in actual warfare was something most species lacked. "Admiral, what are our rules of engagement?" Jake's expression grew harder. "There are no rules of engagement, Colonel Martinez. The Krillians assassinated our diplomat during peace talks. They broadcast it to humiliate us. They wanted to teach the galaxy that humans are weak. We will teach them otherwise." Lieutenant Ben Carter operated the tactical display. Star maps showed Krillian space, their military bases, their populated worlds. Red markers indicated strategic targets. Blue lines showed possible attack routes. The planning had begun immediately, after Elena's death. "The Krillian hegemony controls 17 star systems," Ben reported. "They have approximately 8,000 military vessels of various sizes. Their home system contains their primary shipyards and command centers. Intelligence suggests they are preparing for human retaliation." Jake nodded. "They expect human retaliation. They do not expect human warfare. There is a difference." Admiral Katie Sullivan commanded the fleet's intelligence division. Her ship spent years gathering information about alien military capabilities. She knew more about enemy strengths and weaknesses than the enemies knew about themselves. "Admiral Harrison," Katie said, "our analysis shows that most alien species develop military technology slowly. They focus on impressive displays rather than practical effectiveness. Their weapons are designed to intimidate, not to kill efficiently. Their tactics emphasize honor and tradition over victory." "And human tactics?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. "Human tactics focus on ending conflicts as quickly as possible with minimum human casualties. We do not fight for honor. We fight to win completely." Major Chris Murphy led the Special Forces Division. His teams trained for missions that other species would consider impossible. They could strike anywhere in the galaxy without warning. Their equipment was centuries ahead of anything aliens possessed. "Major Murphy," Jake said, "your teams will be responsible for eliminating Krillian command structures. We want their leadership eliminated completely. No survivors who might reorganize their forces later." Chris nodded. "Understood, sir. How much collateral damage is acceptable?" Jake paused. This was the moment that would define humanity's future in the galaxy. Elena Rodriguez had died trying to build peace. Her death would now bring war unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Major Murphy, there will be no collateral damage, because there will be no Krillian military left to cause it. We are not invading their territory. We are erasing their ability to threaten anyone ever again." The room fell silent. Officers who had spent careers planning defensive operations were now tasked with complete destruction of an entire species. Military power. It was a concept alien races had never faced. Dr. Webb activated another holographic display. It showed weapon systems that looked like science fiction even to advanced human eyes. Particle beams that could cut through any known armor. Missiles that could track targets across light years. Energy weapons that could destroy planets. "These systems have never been tested in actual combat," Nathan explained. "We built them hoping they would never be needed. The Krillians have forced us to discover how effective they really are." Captain Tony Rodriguez stood in the back of the room. He was Elena Rodriguez's younger brother. His sister had died believing in peace. Now he would help deliver war in her memory. "Admiral Harrison," Tony said quietly, "Elena always believed that humans were better than other species because we chose peace over violence. How do we honor her memory by becoming the very thing she worked to prevent?" Jake understood the question. It was the same question he had been asking himself since receiving orders for this campaign. The answer was simple but terrible. "Captain Rodriguez, your sister chose peace because she understood the true cost of war. She knew what humans were capable of when pushed to violence. Her death proves that some species will only respect strength. We will give them a demonstration of human strength they will remember for 1,000 years. The meeting continued for 6 more hours. Battle plans were finalized. Supply lines were organized. Communication protocols were established. Every detail was planned with the same efficiency that had built human civilization. When the meeting ended, the greatest military force in human history began moving toward Krillian space. They carried weapons the galaxy had never seen. They followed tactics no alien species understood. They went to war with the cold efficiency that had made humans the dominant species on their own planet. Elena Rodriguez had spent 15 years proving that humans preferred peace. Her death would teach the galaxy what happened when that preference was rejected. Commander Ryan Brooks watched the stars shift outside his ship's bridge. The stealth destroyer Vengeance moved through space like a ghost. Advanced human technology made the ship invisible to alien sensors. 50 other human vessels followed, in perfect formation, all unseen by their enemies. Ryan had commanded the Vengeance for 3 years. The ship was designed for reconnaissance and protection missions. Today it would become a weapon of war. The Krillian hegemony had no idea what was coming for them. "Commander," said Lieutenant Kelly Davis from the sensor station, "we are approaching the edge of Krillian space. Enemy patrol ships are conducting standard sweeps. They show no indication of detecting our presence." Ryan nodded. Human stealth. Technology was decades ahead of anything aliens possessed. The Krillians were looking for traditional engine signatures and energy readings. Human ships used systems that produced no detectable emissions. The tactical display showed Krillian positions throughout their home system. Orbital defense platforms surrounded their primary world. Military shipyards built new vessels in the outer system. Command stations coordinated their forces. All of these targets had been marked for destruction. "Lieutenant Davis," Ryan commanded, "begin recording all tactical data. Earth Command wants complete documentation of alien military capabilities. This information will help prevent future conflicts." The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. They had trained for this mission countless times. Every human officer understood their role in the larger battle plan. There would be no confusion, no hesitation, no mercy. Captain Nicole Hayes commanded the assault carrier Justice from the center of the human formation. Her ship carried 2,000 Marines equipped with the most advanced combat gear ever created. They would secure strategic targets after the orbital bombardment ended. "Captain Hayes," reported Major Alex Thompson, "Marine units are ready for deployment. All equipment has been checked. Transport shuttles are prepared for immediate launch." Nicole looked at the tactical display showing Krillian defensive positions. The aliens had built their defenses against conventional attacks. They expected enemy ships to approach slowly, exchange fire at long range, and fight according to established patterns. They were wrong. "Major Thompson," Nicole said, "remind all unit commanders that we are not here to occupy territory. We are here to eliminate the Krillian military completely. No prisoner will be taken. No mercy will be shown. They killed Ambassador Rodriguez during peace talks. The Krillian home system contained 8 billion inhabitants spread across 4 worlds. Most were civilians who had nothing to do with Elena Rodriguez's assassination. But their military had made the decision to attack human diplomats. Now their entire species would pay the price." Admiral Jake Harrison coordinated the attack from the flagship Retribution 2. His command ship stayed outside Krillian sensor range while directing the assault. Every human vessel reported ready status. The moment of truth had arrived. "All ships," Jake broadcast on the secure channel, "this is Admiral Harrison. Today we honor Ambassador Elena Rodriguez by teaching the galaxy what happens when human diplomats are murdered. Show them the price of underestimating humanity." The attack began without warning. 50 human ships dropped their stealth fields simultaneously. They appeared inside Krillian defensive perimeters like death materializing from empty space. Alien sensors screamed warnings, but it was already too late. Ryan Brooks watched his weapons officer target the nearest Krillian defense platform. The structure was enormous, bristling with weapons designed to stop traditional fleets. It had never faced human military technology. "Fire," Ryan commanded quietly. The Vengeance unleashed a particle beam that cut through the alien station like paper. The massive structure broke apart in seconds, its debris scattering across space. Similar scenes played out throughout the system, as human weapons destroyed targets with terrifying efficiency. Captain Amy Foster commanded the heavy cruiser Retribution during the assault. Her ship targeted Krillian military vessels with guided missiles that could track targets across vast distances. Each missile carried enough explosive power to destroy ships 10 times its size. "Captain," reported her weapons officer, "enemy vessels are attempting to return fire. Their weapons cannot penetrate our defensive shields. Estimated time to eliminate all hostile ships is 23 minutes. Amy watched alien vessels explode on her tactical display. The Krillians fought bravely, but they were using weapons technology that was centuries behind human capabilities. It was not a battle. It was an execution. The Krillian High Command tried desperately to coordinate a defense. General Zethkar issued orders from the primary command bunker on the homeworld surface. His communications were intercepted and decoded by human intelligence systems within seconds. "All units concentrate fire on the largest human vessels," Zethkar commanded. "These invaders must be stopped before they can establish orbital control." But human ships were already in orbital control. They had appeared inside Krillian defenses and eliminated resistance before anyone could react. The alien military was not fighting a war. They were dying in a demonstration of human military superiority. Major Chris Murphy led the first ground assault units toward the planet's surface. His Marines wore armor that made them look like mechanical demons. Advanced weapons and protective systems gave them capabilities that terrified their enemies. "All units," Chris broadcast to his forces, "remember that we are not here to conquer territory. We are here to eliminate the Krillian military completely. Every command center, every weapons facility, every military installation must be destroyed." The Marine assault shuttles descended through the planet's atmosphere like falling stars. Krillian air defenses tried to stop them, but human shields deflected every attack. The shuttles landed near strategic targets and deployed their deadly cargo. Human Marines moved through Krillian positions with mechanical precision. They had studied alien tactics for years and knew exactly how to counter every defensive strategy. Advanced weapons cut through alien armor like it was made of paper. General Zethkar watched his forces die on tactical displays throughout the command bunker. Centuries of military tradition and honor meant nothing against human efficiency. His species had made a terrible mistake. "Send a surrender signal," Zethkar ordered desperately. "Perhaps we can negotiate terms with the human commanders." But Major Chris Murphy and his Marines were already at the bunker's entrance. They had fought through 3 defensive lines in 40 minutes. The Krillian military's best soldiers lay dead behind them. "General Zethkar," Chris said through the bunker's communication system, "you requested to surrender. Unfortunately, humans do not accept surrender from species that assassinate our diplomats during peace talks." The assault on the command bunker lasted exactly 17 minutes. When it ended, the Krillian military command structure had been eliminated completely. Similar attacks throughout the system destroyed every military facility, every weapons depot, every ship construction yard. The battle for Krillian space was over in 47 minutes. Every alien military vessel had been destroyed. Every defense platform had been eliminated. Every command center lay in ruins. The most powerful military force in this region of the galaxy no longer existed. Captain Tony Rodriguez documented the aftermath from his ship's sensors. The destruction was complete and absolute. No Krillian military vessel larger than a shuttle remained operational. Their orbital defenses were debris fields. Their command structure was gone. Admiral Jake Harrison reviewed the battle reports with satisfaction. Human casualties were 0. Equipment losses were minimal. The mission had been accomplished with the efficiency that characterized all human military operations. "All ships," Jake broadcast. "Phase 1 is complete. The Krillian military has been eliminated. Begin Phase 2, infrastructure reduction. Destroy all facilities that could support future military operations." The galaxy watched in horror as humanity demonstrated what total war actually meant. They had seen conflicts between species before, but never anything like this. Human warfare was not about conquest or honor. It was about ending threats permanently. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen such silence. Representatives from 43 different species sat in their assigned seats, staring at the holographic displays showing the remains of Krillian space. What had once been a powerful, military empire was now a collection of debris fields and ruined worlds. Secretary of War Daniel Peterson walked to the center speaking platform with measured steps. Behind him stood Colonel Sarah Martinez, her uniform displaying medals from conflicts most species had never heard of. Their presence commanded absolute attention from every delegate in the chamber. Ambassador Kethrun of the Zephyrian Alliance spoke first. His forearms trembled slightly as he gestured toward the tactical displays. Secretary Peterson, the destruction shown here exceeds anything in recorded galactic history. Entire fleets eliminated in minutes. Military installations destroyed completely. How is such warfare possible? Daniel looked around the chamber at faces showing fear, confusion, and disbelief. These beings had spent centuries believing that humans were a minor species, barely worth consideration. Elena Rodriguez's assassination had taught them otherwise. Ambassador Kethrun, Daniel replied calmly, what you see is the result of underestimating human capabilities. The Krillian hegemony chose to murder our diplomatic representative during peace talks. They broadcast this assassination to humiliate humanity. They have learned the price of such actions. Councillor Vexthul of the Thorian Republic stood up abruptly. His species resembled giant spiders, and his multiple eyes glared at the human delegation. This level of destruction violates every galactic convention regarding warfare. You have committed genocide against the Krillian military. Colonel Sarah Martinez stepped forward. Her voice carried the authority of someone who had actually fought in wars, not just debated them. Councillor Vexthul, genocide involves killing civilians. We eliminated only military targets. Krillian civilians remain unharmed, though their infrastructure has been reduced to pre-industrial levels. The chamber erupted in protests and angry voices. Species that had never faced real warfare complained about human methods. They spoke of honor, tradition, and proper conduct between civilized beings. Daniel Peterson listened to their outrage with growing coldness. Silence, Daniel commanded, and his voice cut through the chaos like a blade. The chamber fell quiet, immediately. You speak of civilization and proper conduct. Where was this concern when Vextar assassinated Elena Rodriguez? Where were your protests when Krillian broadcasts celebrated the murder of a human diplomat? High Counselor Myra Tell of the Altanian Federation tried to restore diplomatic tone. Her species were known as galaxy-wide peacekeepers and mediators. Secretary Peterson, we understand human anger over Ambassador Rodriguez's death. However, your response has been disproportionate to the crime committed. Daniel smiled without humor. High Counselor Myra Tell, let me explain proportion from a human perspective. Elena Rodriguez spent 15 years building bridges between species. She believed in peaceful cooperation. She died trying to create the very agreements you all claim to support. Captain Tony Rodriguez entered the chamber and walked to join the human delegation. His presence reminded everyone that Elena Rodriguez had been more than just a diplomat. She had been someone's sister, someone's family, someone's hope for a better galaxy. My sister Elena, Tony said quietly, believed that all intelligent species could learn to coexist peacefully. She dedicated her life to proving this belief. Your response to her murder shows how naive that belief was. The alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. Many had known Elena personally. She had negotiated trade agreements that benefited their worlds. Her patience and fairness had earned respect across the galaxy. Now her brother stood before them wearing a military uniform instead of diplomatic robes. Admiral Katie Sullivan activated a new holographic display. It showed human fleet positions throughout known space. Ships that had been conducting peaceful exploration missions were now positioned for military action. The galaxy's entire strategic balance had shifted overnight. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Sullivan announced, this display shows current human military deployments. Every species in this chamber now faces a choice. You can continue with peaceful cooperation as Elena Rodriguez envisioned, or you can test human resolve as the Krillians did. Counselor Bextar of the Hegemony's former allies stood up nervously. His species had provided intelligent support for Krillian military operations. Admiral Sullivan, surely human anger will cool over time. Revenge accomplished, you will return to diplomatic solutions. Daniel Peterson looked directly at Bextar. Counselor, you misunderstand human nature completely. This was not revenge. This was education. We have taught the galaxy what happens when human diplomats are murdered. The lesson will not be forgotten. The chamber fell silent again as the implications became clear. Humanity had not simply destroyed the Krillian military in anger. They had done it as a calculated demonstration of their capabilities. Every species in the galaxy was now being given a choice. Dr. Nathan Webb entered the chamber carrying a small device. His reputation as humanity's foremost weapons researcher was known throughout the galaxy. His presence made several delegates visibly nervous. Honorable counselors, Nathan said politely. This device contains technical specifications for the weapon systems used against Krillian forces. You are welcome to study them and understand exactly what humanity is capable of producing. Several alien scientists approached to examine the device. What they saw on its displays made them step back in shock. The technology was centuries beyond anything they possessed. Weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Defenses that could stop any known attack. Humanity had been hiding military capabilities that redefined what warfare meant. Ambassador Kethrun spoke again, his voice much quieter than before. Secretary Peterson, what does humanity want from the galactic community? What are your demands following this demonstration? Daniel considered the question carefully. This was the moment that would define human relationships with alien species for generations to come. Elena Rodriguez had wanted peaceful cooperation. Her death would now enforce it. Ambassador Kethrun, Daniel replied, humanity wants exactly what Elena Rodriguez died trying to achieve. Peaceful trade, cultural exchange, and mutual cooperation between species. The difference is that now you understand the consequences of threatening that peace. Major Chris Murphy joined the human delegation on the platform. His armor still showed scorch marks from the assault on Krillian command centers. His presence reminded everyone that human words were backed by proven military action. The choice is simple, Chris said bluntly. Work with humanity as Elena Rodriguez hoped or face the same fate as the Krillian military. We prefer diplomacy, but we are prepared for war. High Counselor Myra Tell looked around the chamber at her fellow delegates. Fear was visible on every face. Species that had dominated this region of space for centuries now faced the reality of human military superiority. Secretary Peterson, she said carefully, the Altanian Federation formally requests renewal of all trade agreements with humanity. We deeply regret the circumstances that led to Ambassador Rodriguez's death. One by one, other species made similar requests. Trade agreements that had been stalled for years were suddenly approved. Territorial disputes that had seemed impossible to resolve were settled immediately. The galaxy was discovering the benefits of cooperation. Daniel Peterson looked around the chamber one final time. Elena Rodriguez had dreamed of this moment, when all species would work together peacefully. Her death had made it possible, but not in the way she had hoped. The memorial service for Ambassador Elena Rodriguez will be held on Earth in 7 days, Daniel announced. All species are invited to attend and honor the diplomat who died for the peace you are now eager to embrace. As the human delegation left the chamber, the galaxy began a new age. Peace would reign, but not because of shared understanding or mutual respect. Peace would exist because everyone now understood what would happen if they threatened it. The memorial garden on Earth stretched across 50 acres of carefully tended landscape. Elena Rodriguez's memorial stood at the center, a simple black stone bearing her name and the dates of her life. Delegates from every major species in the galaxy had come to pay their respects. President Connor Walsh stood before the assembled crowd. Behind him, the memorial stone reflected the afternoon sunlight. General Alex Thompson and Director Maya Chen flanked him on either side, their presence reminding everyone that Elena's death had forever changed how the galaxy worked. Elena Rodriguez believed in the power of words to solve conflicts, Connor began, his voice carrying across the silent gathering. She spent 15 years proving that different species could work together peacefully. Her assassination taught the galaxy to value what she died for. In the crowd, alien representatives stood beside human officials. Ambassador Kethrun of the Zephyrian Alliance had personally requested to speak at the ceremony. His forearms held a flowering branch from his homeworld, a symbol of respect among his people. Ambassador Rodriguez, Kethrun said when his turn came, showed us that strength comes in many forms. We thought her kindness was weakness. We learned too late that her patience was humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. Admiral Katie Sullivan watched the ceremony from her command ship in orbit. Her expanded fleet now patrolled trade routes that had been dangerous for centuries. Pirates and raiders had simply vanished, unwilling to risk drawing human attention. Peace had come to regions that had known only conflict. "Admiral," reported Captain Steve Wilson from the bridge, "we're receiving another request for safe passage through the Outer Rim territories." "That's the 15th today," Katie smiled slightly. "Grant the request, Captain Wilson. Our presence here ensures that all species can trade safely." Elena Rodriguez would have approved. The changes had begun immediately after the Krillian demonstration. Species that had spent centuries in territorial disputes suddenly found diplomatic solutions. Trade agreements that had been stalled for decades were signed within days. The galaxy was discovering the benefits of cooperation. Dr. Nathan Webb stood in his laboratory, studying reports from around known space. Military buildup by various species had stopped completely. Research programs focused on weapons development had been redirected toward peaceful technology. No one wanted to be seen as a potential threat. Dr. Webb, his assistant Dr. Lisa Park said, "We're receiving cooperation requests for scientific projects from 12 different species. They want to share research that was previously classified." Nathan nodded. "Accept them all, Dr. Park." Elena Rodriguez believed that shared knowledge would bring species together. We can honor her memory by making that dream reality. The transformation extended beyond military matters. Cultural exchange programs expanded rapidly. Alien students applied to human universities in record numbers. Human artists and musicians found eager audiences on dozens of worlds. Captain Tony Rodriguez commanded the new flagship Retribution 3 as it patrolled the former Krillian space. The region had become a humanitarian zone where human ships delivered supplies to rebuild civilian infrastructure. The Krillian population was learning to rebuild their society without military aggression. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Emma Clark, "the supply convoy has successfully delivered medical equipment to the third planet. Krillian civilians are expressing gratitude for human assistance." Tony looked at the tactical display showing peaceful cargo ships instead of military vessels. Elena would have wanted them to rebuild better than before. "Continue the supply missions, Lieutenant Clark." The memorial service had lasted 3 hours. Representatives from 43 species had spoken about Elena Rodriguez's impact on their worlds. Many admitted they had not fully appreciated her efforts until after her death. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, the pace of legislative progress had increased dramatically. Proposals that had been debated for years were suddenly approved unanimously. Environmental protection measures, trade standardization, and cultural protection laws all passed without opposition. High Counselor Myra Tell of the Altanian Federation addressed the council during a routine session. "Fellow councilors, we have accomplished more meaningful legislation in the past month than in the previous decade. Perhaps Ambassador Rodriguez's greatest achievement was teaching us that cooperation serves everyone's interests. The economic changes were equally dramatic. Trade volume between species had increased by 300%. New shipping routes connected previously isolated worlds. Piracy and raiders had become extinct problems, eliminated by the certainty of human response to violence. Admiral Jake Harrison reviewed monthly reports from his commanders around the galaxy. Human ships maintained visible presence in every major trade corridor. Their advanced sensors detected potential threats long before they could develop into actual problems. "Admiral," reported Captain Dan Foster, "merchant vessels are reporting the safest conditions in recorded history. Insurance rates for interstellar commerce have dropped to historic lows." Jake smiled. "Elena Rodriguez always said that peace was good for business, Captain Foster. The galaxy is finally learning what she meant. The technological sharing had unexpected benefits. Alien medical techniques combined with human research produced breakthrough treatments for diseases that had plagued multiple species. Agricultural methods from different worlds increased food production across the galaxy. Dr. Maya Chen coordinated the intelligence networks that now operated openly between species. Information sharing had replaced espionage. Potential conflicts were identified and resolved before they could develop into violence. Dr. Chen, reported Agent Kevin Moore, "Our early warning systems have prevented 14 potential conflicts. This month, diplomatic teams resolve issues before they escalate." Maya reviewed the reports with satisfaction. Agent Moore, Elena Rodriguez believed that most conflicts came from misunderstanding. Better communication prevents the need for military solutions. The changes extended to how younger generations of aliens viewed humanity. Human teachers worked in schools across the galaxy, sharing not just knowledge, but the philosophy that had made Elena Rodriguez effective. Children learned that strength without wisdom was worthless. President Connor Walsh received daily briefings on the transformation sweeping known space. Every report confirmed that Elena Rodriguez's vision of peaceful cooperation was becoming reality, enforced by the demonstrated consequences of threatening that peace. "Mr. President," his aide reported, "galactic trade volume has reached levels not seen since the formation of the first interstellar alliances. Economic prosperity is increasing on every inhabited world." Connor nodded thoughtfully. Elena always believed that prosperity was the best foundation for peace. She was right, though it took her death to prove it. The memorial garden had become a pilgrimage site. Beings from across the galaxy came to honor the diplomat who had died for their peace. The simple inscription on her memorial stone was translated into hundreds of languages, but its message was universal. Captain Amy Foster commanded her ship through the same space where Elena Rodriguez had been assassinated. Nexus Prime Station had been rebuilt as a center for diplomatic cooperation. The meeting halls where Elena died now hosted successful negotiations between dozens of species. "Captain," her communications officer reported, "Nexus Prime is requesting permission to name their new diplomatic wing after Ambassador Rodriguez." Amy smiled as she looked at the station where everything had changed. "Permission granted. Elena Rodriguez deserves to be remembered where her work began and where her death taught the galaxy to value peace." The galaxy had entered a new age. Trade flourished under human protection. Conflicts were resolved through diplomacy backed by the certainty of overwhelming force if negotiations failed. Pirates, raiders, and aggressive species had learned to find other occupations. Elena Rodriguez had spent her life proving that different species could work together. Her death had made that cooperation mandatory. The galaxy she had dreamed of finally existed, built on the foundation of demonstrated human military superiority. The memorial stone in the garden bore a simple truth that every species now understood. In memory of Ambassador Elena Rodriguez, who died seeking peace, her death taught the galaxy to value what she lived for. Peace had come at last, enforced by the species that preferred diplomacy, but possessed the means to end conflicts permanently. Elena Rodriguez's greatest achievement was a galaxy that finally understood the difference between choosing peace and being forced to accept it.